So today I've got a special guest. My lovely wife, Sarah, at XBlix on Instagram, is in the podcast studio with us.
Yes.
And let's address the elephant in the room. How does a weirdo like me land a beautiful lady like yourself?
Oh, that's tricky. Let's see. Charm.
Charm.
And humor.
Humor.
I think those are the two things
Yeah.
that got me.
Yeah, I'm definitely always teasing you.
Yeah. It's always good to be funny.
Yeah.
And charming. I don't know. You're very suave.
Suave?
Yeah.
I don't know about suave.
Silver tongue.
I guess you can polish a turd. Yeah, I've never
Definitely.
really thought of myself as suave or particularly handsome, but if you say so.
Well, you're a good conversationalist, right? So everybody likes to think that they're being listened to. Or
Yes,
be
we-
listened to, I guess, right? So
Our first date, we talked for, what,
3 hours?
3 hours? We went for
probably?
coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long time.
So Sarah and I met on a dating website originally. I've had mixed results with dating websites in general. They're not always good. There's a lot of sketchy people on dating websites, but if you're willing to sift through, there is sometimes daylight at the end.
You find a winner. That was my first dating website.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising to me that you were on there for 3 seconds and you found someone.
Right.
But if you're a guy, it's sometimes you'll linger on those sites for months. Like
Yeah.
the one that we met on, for example, I was on there, but I wasn't daily on there. Like I had a profile and it existed, but I wasn't checking it all the time.
Right.
So it was just like I'd go on there and I'd have like 15 messages or something for the last few weeks, and they were all pretty well awful. And then it's like, oh, this one's good. I'll
Right.
talk to this one, right?
Yeah.
But I was on quite a few of those at that point, and so I don't know if I really had any expectation of anything.
Yeah, I think like I made it, and then either that evening or the next day you responded to me.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, what was it, like swipe up or click or
No,
message,
or
or I
maybe it
can't
was. I
remember.
don't-
It was something silly like
'Cause
that,
even since then, dating websites have changed so much.
right? I know. And it's been a while.
Because, like, I never did Tinder,
No,
but, like, that's the big one that everybody talks about now.
I had Tinder for 20 minutes, and I was like, I can't. What is this? I feel like I'm in a magazine, and I'm like, no.
It's
No.
kind of like fast food dating.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Like, it's like the fast food of dating world. Like, if you want to get a cheap burger, you're going to McDonald's. And then when you're disappointed at the end, you really only can blame yourself.
Right.
Like, well, I've got a sore stomach. I'm shy a little bit of money now. I might throw up later, but it did the trick.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of what Tinder is to the dating world,
But
right?
it's
Like,
not really for dating either. It's for like,
well, whatever. I
you
think
know,
some people think
having
it
a good
is.
time.
Like, that's another thing about it is like it's like confused intention where some people are like, I'm gonna find the one, and other ones like, I just really need to get laid tonight. I
Right.
don't care how it happens or
I need
who
some
it's
company.
with. Yeah.
Right? It makes sense.
I remember when you messaged me, we chatted like a handful of times, and then
You disappeared,
I disappeared.
right?
And
You were
then-
gone for like a month.
And then I'm like, I don't know, I didn't think of it was anything personal or anything.
No.
But then a couple of weeks later, I got another message from you
yeah, I
like,
was
hey,
like, what happened to that weirdo?
where'd this guy go?
Yeah.
Yeah. But dating as a father, a single father, is kind of tricky too.
It is, I
And-
think, probably. I don't know.
Especially like because I don't really want more kids, and so it's like the women that you'll find are probably looking for someone who wants more kids,
Right?
if you already have a kid. So when you were like, I don't want kids,
I know,
was
you were like, yes.
yeah, that works for me.
No, I know, but that was tricky for me too because you already had a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, what if this guy wants more kids? What if one kid's not enough kids? Or like, what if he wants like a kid with his next partner? And I'm like,
What if I
you know,
want a whole
the Debbie
gathering
Downer,
of
the Debbie Downer that's like, I don't really, I like kids, but I don't really like want kids. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to birth anybody.
You want to be like a cool aunt, maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you had a cool aunt, and then it's easy to be one yourself.
A good influence
Right.
instead.
So I think the part of the problem is when you have a kid as a single father, it's like finding a woman that's okay with that, because a lot of the times they would have wanted to have that kid themselves with you or something, right? But you obviously, like, and then I don't want another kid, so there's that complication of, well, we won't be doing this together.
Right.
Right.
Someone who's cool with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we were like really aligned on the dynamic that our family would have too, right? Which I think was really good. Like we're both like kind of like not irresponsible, but we're both kind of like not super serious like adults.
Well,
So I think that really works.
to some degree.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I don't think either of us ever really want to, like, grow up and be
Yeah.
that, like, typical stiff old person that
Right.
that's
what I
just
mean.
like, I'm done. I'm 30 and it's over for me, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just going to eat Cheetos and exist now.
Right.
But I think a lot of the thing that people always can't understand about our relationship is they would think that a guy like me could never find a partner, right?
I don't know why they would think that though. When
I know.
mean,
I've
if
never been single, really.
Right. I remember my first impression of you was like, oh, like this guy's really good looking. And like, he's like kind of like interesting looking. It looks like, he's obviously lived a life. And like, pretty sure you advertised on your page that you own a house and that you had a full-time job, which I think like as a female, you're like, yes, right?
Well,
like,
by the time you're getting into your late 20s, you should have something to say for yourself,
lots
right?
of guys, I don't know. I guess that's just my dating experience where I dated a bunch of guys who didn't have anything.
Yes.
They were like not together.
Fortunate for me, it wasn't hard to level up over what you've had in the past.
It was a big level up though.
Maybe it was luck for me that you had some crappier experiences too.
Well, I wouldn't call them like crappy experiences, but they were like maybe just like learning experiences, right? You figure out that you don't want to be with someone that has like no direction, or that they're just cool with like floating through life and getting random jobs every couple months and being jobless for like 6 months and being okay with me paying the bills.
Yeah, that's a big
is
no-no for me.
Awful.
Obviously,
Yeah.
where I've been the breadwinner for every other relationship.
Right.
The idea of, and it sounds old schooly and macho, but the idea of a woman paying for me is like, I might rather die. Like I might sooner throw myself off a bridge.
Right.
So like during COVID when
I was the breadwinner.
I was out of work and on CERB,
Yeah.
I was not a happy camper.
Well, I wasn't really the breadwinner, but I was the one that
I
was
was
going
still-
to work.
I was- yeah, I was
you
still-
still made more money than me technically
But
through CERB, but
it was horrible.
It was tricky.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Like I've never been. Like I felt like someone took my balls off,
yeah,
and
right?
I've never been without income, which is another funny thing because everyone's always like, "Oh my God, you'll never get a job. You'll never have
Right.
income."
Oh,
It's like
those comments always bother me because I'm like, do you not know how much tattoos cost?
yeah.
Like to be able to tattoo yourself fully over once and then tattoo yourself fully over again every week is a lot of money.
And then I'm less worried about the money aspect and more worried about what I'm going to do when I'm not doing.
I
You know what I
know.
mean? Like, because even this morning, I'm like, I'll be done. And then it's just touch-ups. And
I
then
know what
it's-
happens though.
Yeah.
You disappear into the bathroom and you come out and you're like, Sarah, I stretched this. And I'm like, he stretched this.
Yeah.
Right?
And,
That's exactly what happens when you don't get tattooed. Something gets stretched.
and then that's the problem is like, I don't really want to stretch too many
No,
more
I know,
things.
right?
And I'm like, if I keep stretching some of these holes, they're going to be bigger than I ever really wanted them to be.
Right?
So then there's that anxiety of like, okay, what am I going to do when this is over, right? And then transitioning that energy. But like, I'm sure you're like, oh, finally we'll be able to spend more money on the house.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because like, oh, we own the house and we've done some repairs, but we'd like to get a better house one day.
Yeah, I'd like a bigger house.
Right.
A little bit.
Right.
I mean, it's not a necessity. I would like for our house to feel like our house. Our house is like your prize. I'd like a together prize.
I think that's another thing I was going to say. When you own a house and then someone moves in, there's always that feeling that that person is your visitor or something, or like they're living in your life. Like what I had with the girl I was with from Ontario, where it felt like no matter what I did, she would never feel comfortable there because it was all my world. And
Right.
so I had that only one time I moved into a woman's house, and it actually was that way. Like when things fell apart, it was like, you have to go. It's
Right.
not even like a discussion about who gets to go. It's no, you're leaving.
Yeah.
This is my house.
Right.
And that confirms those fears, right?
Oh yeah. No, like I for sure feel like your house is also my house, but it's just like it's like a goal or an accomplishment that we could, make together, which I think is pretty awesome. I think it's like a healthy step up for like most relationships, because I think most people, they get married and then they buy a house, right? We
It's the storybook.
we got together, we bought a car, you had a house,
Yeah.
and then we got married,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the way that went. It was a little reverse order, I suppose you could say, right?
Or at least, or sideways order.
Sideways order.
like-
yeah.
Most people think that it's supposed to happen a certain way.
Yeah.
But if it was supposed to happen a certain way, we definitely didn't do it that certain way, because both of us had been in several long relationships
Right.
first, and kind of, I think, learned what you can live with and what you can't live with.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
We both had laundry lists of like things that prospective partner needed to have, right, in order for them to like qualify for the position.
yeah, I had a strange one. Like, I had a strange list of kind of demands going into any first date that I had. It was like, if I ask a certain question and I get a certain answer, it's a flag. So one of the first things that I talked to you about, and other girls I would go out on a date with at that point, was, okay, tell me about your last relationship a little bit, and like, how did it end? And if they would start trashing their partner and blaming it all on that person and taking no accountability for anything that happened, I was like, okay, I need to get away from this person.
Right.
Because they're not mature enough to look back and reflect on anything they've done. Because that's where I was at, where I was like, I was cross-examining my last relationships and being like, boy, I was an asshole there, or like, I did this wrong and I shouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
And like, from doing that and examining my past, it was like, I'm going to be better the next relationship. I'm going to do a better job,
Right. I remember when we talked about that too originally. I remember you had pointed out that I didn't say anything really bad about my last partner, in that I kind of understood that the relationship sort of fell apart due to both of us, not just I didn't just blame that person and say, oh, like they were this or they were that, right? And like, if you're not a good match, you're not a good match. It takes two people to make a relationship work, right? Like, you can't just like point the finger and be like, well, you did this and you did that because, while they were doing this and that, what were you doing in reaction, right? And
well, it takes two to tango as well.
Yeah.
And people say that a lot, but I don't think they realize it a lot, because it's really easy to blame someone else always.
oh, for sure.
It's really hard to look at yourself in the mirror and go, man, I've got to work on me.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much I'm not working on because I'm working on this person and their problems. Meanwhile, my own problems are burying me alive.
Yeah, no, exactly. I always think that like self-reflection is so important, especially when you're exiting a relationship and hoping to enter into a new relationship. Like, you got to think about like, what could I have done better? How could I have been a better partner? What do I want from my relationship? I always thought that was like people's problems in the relationships that I was entering into before you, and that was like on my laundry list is that I wanted someone that knew what they were doing, like, at least with their relationship.
Right.
Right?
Some
Like,
direction.
You had a goal.
I had a really aggressive goal.
It was
yeah.
a very aggressive goal, but
Yeah.
it was a goal, and it was a goal that, like, I had wanted too. I just wasn't used to people.
Being as forward.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
most people that I had been with didn't want to get married. They were like, oh yeah, I want to get married. And then when it came down to it, they're like, we're just going to date forever.
Well, it's like, well, that one day, but that one day never comes.
Yeah.
And who knows, one day could be, you're 65 years old and then most of your life has passed already.
Non-committal.
And
When all the other good people are gone, they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll take you now.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to see, I wanted to get that part of because I knew being married is exciting.
Yeah.
And it's a big celebration, the wedding and all that stuff. But I kind of wanted to get past all of that stuff because I was getting sick of the lust phase of relationships. Because I feel like I was only, for most of my relationships, I was only getting into that phase. And then once that phase ended, it would be over.
Yeah.
Like once you started seeing the flaws, then people start running.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, I get it. Lust. We're feeling this. And I said it right away. People always feel like they're meeting the one at first.
Right.
And I was like, you're going to think this thing or you're going to think that thing at the beginning. But once that's over, what's left? That's what I want now. I don't really want the lusty thing. I want the relationship where you're both laying in bed in PJs and,
Playing
you're both
video games.
playing a video game or watching TV and
playing two different video games.
Right. But you're like you're enjoying each other's company, but it doesn't have to be so like hyper focused.
Like on each other.
Right.
Like you don't have to be gazing into each other's eyes constantly.
Yeah, because in the beginning of any relationship, it's always like every single second is devoted to relationship building.
Right.
And though I do love that, and I think that's an important, I just felt like all of my relationships were relationship build. And then once you get them there, then they crumble. And it's like,
you were well practiced.
too well practiced. It was nauseating, and I was kind of getting tired of the game of courting.
Right.
Where it's like I want to meet someone that I know I'm compatible with, that's good for me, that I can settle down with. Right. So that's where I was at going into our relationship, and I feel like in doing something like that, you have to go against your patterns, right? Like I had to go against. When I was talking to Scott about this a few weeks ago, he said it's like eating a cheeseburger for momentary happiness. You're not going to feel good about it later, but I'll say you have to go against what you want in that moment. What you want in that moment might not be the best. It might be what you're used to, right? So you end up going for someone that was different than the past, and then it's a little bit trickier to start, right? And I feel like it was for both of us.
Yeah.
Like definitely was like a learning experience.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
But,
super learning experience.
The other thing is when we got together, I didn't have a full bodysuit. I had
you had like a mantle.
I had a mantle and I had
like a couple little here and there.
I wasn't even fully sleeved. I had like partial sleeves. I had I think I just got my knuckles tattooed and my hands tattooed right away after we got together. But
you got the stars on the tops of your hands while we were first dating.
And then 3 weeks in, we got mutual tattoos done or something.
Yeah.
It was really.
We both got
we got the typo negative.
Typo negative symbols.
Mine is gone now.
Yeah. The memory remains.
But the memory remains. It's one of those. It's easy for me to forget that tattoo existed, if not for the story.
Right.
Like the story attached to it is definitely worth more than that tattoo was worth for me.
I think that was the time that you talked about it previously. The guy fell out of the chair. I think that was the time.
It might have been the day when the guy fell out of the chair.
Yeah.
Where he went green in the face.
Right. Yeah, because we were both there for that instant. And
he just spilled over.
Yeah.
And then they sat him back up, and then he spilled over again, and his water went all over the place.
Crazy. I'd never seen anything like that before.
He was lucky someone who was strong
Yeah.
was there.
Someone that was of the same stature of him.
Yeah,
Because he was a big boy.
He was a big boy, and so was the guy who caught him,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully.
Or else, because I couldn't have picked him up.
No.
If he had fell on me, I would have been splat on the ground.
Yeah.
I would have been a puddle.
Probably.
Like,
Yeah.
you would never seen me again, because he was a big boy, like you said. But, yeah, he was fortunate to be caught that day. And I think you're right. I think that was the day we were both getting those typo negative tattoos. But
Yeah,
it's
'cause we were
hard for
both
me to
there.
remember because I was getting so much work done then.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, most of the time, a lot of the time, for a lot of your tattoos, I was present because hanging out, right?
Well, yeah,
there
we
was
were-
a
we were
lot of the
dating and it
time that I
was
would come and hang
novelty.
out. Yeah, right. And I used to work really like all of the tattoo studios in our city
Yeah.
are like
Right
in
near
the
your
same
work.
area, and I used to work like close by, so it'd be like, hey Sarah, I'm getting tattooed after work, just meet me at the studio, and I would show up and
Yeah.
you would be getting like a something for several hours. Always really entertaining.
Yeah, well, I was probably working harder that year and the next year
Oh yeah.
than ever. And people think I'm working hard now. Like, people are like, how can you afford to get tattooed every week? I was
Yeah.
like, oh, every week? I was getting 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah, I remember
I
like
was like a savage.
sometimes you would do like 2 or 3 times a week, and you would be like sore, and then you'd go in and get another one, and you'd be more sore again.
And then you'd be, this is ruining our life. We never get to do anything.
Oh, it was a bit annoying because we couldn't go. I really like to go for walks, and sometimes we couldn't go for walks, but it's okay. It's totally worth it in the end because we have the rest of our life to go for
well,
walks.
if I can ever finally finish,
We'll see.
like, I'm approaching the finish line and I'm like nervous about it. Like, where it's like, I don't know how that works for me, and it's going to be a real learning experience.
Yeah.
It's almost like a similar apprehension, I would imagine, like an old man who's worked for his whole life, and he's knowing that his retirement is coming in the next year, and it's like, what am I going to do around the house?
Yeah,
You know?
well, no, exactly, right?
Well, I guess I'll work on that old car I've had in the shed, you know? Like, I'll get some overalls and go hang out with a wrench in the garage. Like, that's kind of where I'm at.
I could be your old car. We could work on getting Sarah
Yeah,
tattoos.
it's like, how about we buy Sarah some tattoos?
Yeah.
But you're a lot pickier than I
Oh,
am.
that's like my biggest problem is I am so picky about like who I get tattooed by because I really like the artistry.
Right. So
Right.
you're like, because I talk about this quite often on here about how I'm not really necessarily in this for any one piece.
Right.
Like I was just even talking a couple weeks ago about I could just black out any tattoo and not really care at all. Like, I would lose no sleep over getting rid of my eye tattoo, for
Right.
example. And that's like the logo of Ephemera Remy.
Yeah,
But
it's the
obviously,
Remy logo.
and I'm just a big smile on my face. And it's like, yeah, it hurts, but it's fun too, right? Yeah, I don't attach anything to that. But for you, you're on the opposite end of that spectrum where you want it for the art.
Yeah, I want it for the art, but I also think that I could easily black any of them out, like if that was the process that I was into. Like, I have an attachment more to like the collecting aspect, I guess, right? So it's like, it's really fun to find an artist that, you know, does the style I like and then sort of maybe has, you know, the same interests and they could really do that kind of darker look well,
Right.
right? And like that's kind of fun. And then getting like a little like fridge magnet by them is pretty cool. But at the end of the day, it's not like I'm like, you know, I love my witch so much that I'm never gonna get rid of her, right? Like,
Right. The witch on your arm that
Yeah.
you're talking about. And then I think my favorite tattoo is the lantern that you have
yeah,
on your...
on my stomach.
Yeah.
Which
That anyone ever gets to see.
it's on my Instagram. I made sure to put it on Instagram.
I remember thinking, like, I have a tendency, and I used to think this more, but when people only have a few tattoos and they act like they're super tattooed,
Oh, right.
and they're like, oh, I'm tough for whatever it makes them. But when I seen you getting your stomach tattooed, it gave you a level up in my mind for like your pain tolerance.
Yeah.
Because I don't love getting my stomach worked on. I say all the time when people ask, okay, what's the most painful spot of all? And I'm like, well, honestly, the most painful spots for me are my throat, my lower back. However, the worst days for me, wall to wall, are my stomach tattoo days. I hate them because I just can't get a break. Like, it feels like there's no area in here that gives you that second a breather.
Right.
It's just all like, oh, God, like an 8 the whole way for me. Maybe I'm a big baby about it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
never
don't know.
complain, but
No, you can't even tell. When you get tattooed, you don't even look like you're in pain. It's so funny.
well,
Sometimes you get glazed over, and that's kind of how you can tell
that's
when
where
it
I'm
hurts.
regressing it.
Right, but
Like, it's the same way I deal with like mental strife too. It all
yeah,
goes inside,
You glaze over a bit.
tunnel inward, you know.
But like I found with my stomach tattoo, like comes up on my ribs and comes up on my sternum. It was less about like the pain for me and more being annoyed at the involuntary twitches that like I remember at one point, I don't know if you were there for that session. You were there for like one or two of the sessions that we did it, but for one of them, my one side, it just kept twitching on its own and I couldn't stop it. And it was like tickly. And
Yeah,
I was like, hey, well, I guess we need to stop even though I don't want to, but I'm like involuntarily twitching now. And
Sometimes
it
that has to do
sucks.
with like what you've eaten that day and how well you slept and what
Yeah.
kind of mental state you're in.
You know me though, like I'm like the ultimate like prep person for tattoos. I'm like, I'm gonna make sure I eat good. Although I had driven to Calgary, like, so it's like a 2-hour drive. So I was probably maybe fatigued going
Right.
into it, maybe a bit anxious.
The worst part is, depending on what you're having done, it doesn't matter if you
Right.
twitch or not. But if you're getting something lined and you're twitching, then it's a nightmare.
I
'cause-
can't remember if it was when he was lining it. I just know that and it was only the one side. It was my my left side, my right side. When he would go over and do that, it was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And then on my left side, it was like twitching out, and it was like being tickled. It didn't even hurt. It was crazy.
I always wonder if that's in our head or if there's some biology where, because like when I had these two skulls here, it's the perfect example of that. The right side didn't hurt, but the left side hurt like hell,
Right, and they healed different too.
and they healed different. And
One was lighter.
and like I don't know why it is.
Yeah.
Whether it was the time of day or like where I was at physically or mentally or what, but I remember thinking, well, the right one was a cakewalk, so this left one that I'm getting second, it'll
Yeah.
be easy too. But it bled and it healed different and it was painful and it was a horrible experience.
Right.
And then, but the funny thing is I've had those guys worked on. I had them touched up last year and I had them blacked out recently.
Yeah.
And neither time since did they hurt the same as that first time. So it's like, was I just having an off day? Like, what was the science there?
I don't know. I'm sure there is a science behind it.
Right.
Like, I mean, like both halves of your body are like a little different, right? So I'm sure someone out there could probably tell us what the science is behind it, right? Like,
But I
there is
also
probably
wonder,
something.
like,
Circulation. I don't know.
so with your stomach, you twitched for that session, but I also wonder if you had, like, say, your whole back done, your whole stomach done, all your legs done, like everything on you done, and then you went back for that same session. I wonder if you'd still twitch or if you'd be able to stable yourself better.
Right.
Because, like, I think that there's a certain amount of mind over matter that can
Yeah.
happen where you've been through so much and then you kind of learn to still yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, oh, you just need more experience.
No, but I think definitely that is probably true, right? The more you experience that pain, the more like better prepared for it you would be,
Right.
I guess. And like, I mean, you'd be the perfect person to say whether or not that's accurate because you've had so many spots
It's-
tattooed over again, right?
Well, but
So
I used to think that was always true, but there's some things that have proven me wrong.
Yeah.
Like the last time I got my throat tattooed.
Oh, I know. I definitely used to say that your throat was just like nothing, and then the last time you got it done, I think it hurt way more.
I
eh?
just about couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I actually had to ask Rick for Bactine that day, and I
Yeah.
basically never ask for that.
Nope.
I've had people use it on me without me asking, and I'll always just be like, "Oh, you're an angel," or whatever. Like I just
Thank
quickly,
you.
because I wasn't gonna ask, but thank you, right?
Mhm.
But for that one, I had a real specific goal in mind. I had that ring that kept popping
Yeah,
out.
it wouldn't go away.
Yeah, we blacked it out twice, and that gold ring kept popping out.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Okay, Rick, like."
Get rid of it this
I
time.
need you. And then when he got in there, he's like, "Oh, there's some other stuff I can hit." And I
Yeah.
was like,
It's all that
Um,
scar tissue.
"Please hit it quick. I'm dying." Like we did. I think it was only an hour and 15 minutes,
Right.
and I was maxed out the whole time. Like I was at my wit's end for the whole session. But that was the 6th time I've worked on those areas.
Right. Oh,
And-
yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know if there's enough mental callous in the world to stop that kind of thing. But there are other things like I had my downstairs pierced twice
Right.
in 2012. And I always think that was the most painful thing I've ever done.
Ouch.
But at the same time, that was before I had so much experience.
Yeah, it would probably feel different now, I wonder.
Right, I don't know if it would still be the most painful thing.
You'll have to find out.
Well, I don't know if you can possibly know, right? Because, like, I would need to put myself back to 2012, but with this much experience.
Yeah.
Because you're also younger, too.
Yeah, and I guess if you got it re-pierced, maybe not in the same spot, your memory of the pain is,
Yeah.
it's different than being in the moment in the pain, right? Like that's the thing is like our memory works in such a way
Mhm.
that we forget how much something actually hurt,
It
or we
becomes
make it
myth.
like hurt more than it actually did. Like it's either or, right? Yeah, it becomes myth. It just becomes, it's like I think women do it with childbirth, right?
Oh,
we,
yeah,
we forget. Ladies
I
forget all
won't
the time how
comment
much
on-
it hurt.
And neither of us can because we
No,
haven't done it.
But my family always says that, where they're like, it hurt, but then like a couple months later, you completely forget. Like my sister-in-laws both, they say that. So I believe it, because like, why would you do it again, right? You got to be programmed that way.
Well, and then that works with other minor things. Like we have these myths about certain things being really, really awful
Yeah.
and painful, like armpit tattoos. And the way that I went about that was like, I almost didn't even care to have an image there. It was just like about kind of like, I need to disprove this for
Yeah,
me.
you wanted
'cause
the
There's just no
experience.
way that this is that bad. There's absolutely no way. I think it's
Right.
preposterous that people, and then I went and I did it, and that's exactly what I thought after too.
Yeah.
In fact, there's videos of me giggling while I'm having my armpit like savagely
I know.
tattooed.
It's crazy.
Like I post that one on my TikTok like all the time.
Mhm.
I just repost it because it always goes viral for some reason. It's like fly trap or something, right? It's like if you build it, they will come.
The spectacle.
It's the spectacle of a man, laying there and he's just having his armpit raked, and we're just making casual
Yeah.
conversation.
And that was Lee too, right? He's just like,
It was Lee. It was Lee
Scribbling
doing
on
it,
you.
and Kevin was filming it.
oh yeah.
And it always looks worse to everyone in the area than it feels.
Right.
And I kind of get off on that. Like I'm kind of like I'm enjoying the illusion that's
Yeah.
happening. But I was gonna say earlier that when we got together and I was on this quest for coverage and I was getting tattooed all the time. What did you think of that? What was happening? What were your thoughts? Because this is something I've never really asked you. Like, what did you see that as? 'Cause it's got to be strange.
No, I don't know. It didn't strike me as strange
No?
though. I don't know. I've just who you are. I don't know. I
But-
didn't ever like sit down and ponder like, why is Jeremy doing this? Like,
See, you were the only person other than me that was seeing the progression
Right.
rapidly.
there was times like that I was worried about like your health,
Hmm.
like how much of this can you do before your body gives out? I mean, like you take really good care of yourself for the most part. I mean, everybody has points that they can improve on, but like, you know, the only thing that I can like remember is thinking like, how much tattooing can the human body take? Like, how much like can your kidneys take and stuff like that before, you know, it's too much. And like, you haven't had any problems in that regard, right?
No.
So
I seen
but I remember worrying about that.
Unilad video again. Now I'm subscribed to them, so I'm seeing they're on like a kick where they're finding weird tattooed people right now to interview, and that's likely why they came for me, right?
Right.
But they had a guy named Diamond Rich on there,
Yeah.
who's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most tattooed person in the world right now.
Yeah.
There's been lots of people who've had that accolade, but right now he's got it. He's got like 3 or 4 layers over everything.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how old he is, but it doesn't seem to be bothering him. Like, he's living just fine.
Right.
He looks strange, right?
Yeah.
Like, his skin is kind of like got like a green look to it. Because it was like he had a whole set of tattoos, then he blacked that out, then he did like black and white over top of that, and he's gotten quite old, so his skin is kind of like...
Well, the tattoos are, you know, they're spreading.
The ink
right?
is spreading, and he hasn't been tattooed in 6 years. And he looks like it's impressive, but also like this could be me one day.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want it to be. And I'm not hating on the guy because he seems like a lovely fella, but this is me if I don't know when to... How's it going?
Okay.
This is me if I don't know when to pull the plug.
Right.
You know, like I could end up being that guy very easily. And I don't think either of us want that. Probably.
No, I mean, right now, like, for me, it's super hard to see, like, what is the end for you, right? Because I don't know, I feel like a logical conclusion for you is, like, either you start tattooing people yourself and that, like, replaces the process for you, or you find, like, some other way to modify yourself
well, I keep talking about
you know, can take it over,
like heavy fitness, and there's this guy that I always
fitness.
show you El Tattoo,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is gonna be me soon, and he's like giant, like massive,
And I'm
like
always
all
like,
blackout tattoos.
He's
like
too big.
yeah, he looks like an old like a Zeus like guy, like
Yeah, he's so muscular.
right. He's just like this Greek god, but he's all blacked out.
Yeah.
And Sarah's like, that's too big. Don't get that big.
But he doesn't, well, I mean, like, it looks good on him.
Sure. Like, the
Right?
guy's impressive. You
Yeah.
can't take anything away from him.
But,
He's an Adonis of a man, but
Yes.
frightening, too.
right?
Like, frightening.
crazy.
Like, he could just pop your head off.
Yeah.
And the blackout tattoos make him look that much more menacing.
Very intimidating. Very intimidating.
But
It's pretty cool, though.
it was funny because when we got together, like, we talked about blackout tattoos, and I was like, oh, it's a waste of space. Why
Yeah.
would you do that?
And I was always really fond. I was always like, oh man, like I love like a good black arm. Like I think it looks great. And you were always like, nah,
Right.
nah.
Yeah, that's
You're like, I don't like
trash.
that.
It doesn't make sense. And it's odd because I used to fashion myself, like you said, you're a collector.
Yeah, you were
Right.
collecting.
And I used to think, well, I'm a collector too. But I'm really not a collector.
No, I
don't
didn't
care.
think you
'Cause,
were.
like, I would always tell you, because you would be pointing artists, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, look at this guy's
Yeah,
style.
like, I
It's
really
really
like
cool. I'm
their-
like, anyone could do that. And you're
Yeah.
like, no, he has a certain way. But I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, anyone could do that. You just show they can, like, emulate
No.
it and do it this way.
Not how it works.
And you're like, no, it has to be done by this person because they do it this way.
I mean, there are like people who can really mimic
Right.
other people's styles, which is, you know, whatever. But like, there's something about like that person who does that one thing and they do it really well and they like draw it a certain way, and then having that for your collection, right? Like, I point out artists to you all the time, like, that do like really specific, really witchy images. I'm gonna not name names because I don't think that's always really nice, but
Yeah.
you know, I show you some all the time that I'm like, oh man, like I'd love to go and get a tattoo by that person. And like, yeah, I could show, you know, Joe over at whatever tattoo shop that same image and, you know, maybe they could rip it off, but like, I don't want that. Like, I want that image by that person
You want
because
the authentic.
they're
where
that artist.
I was always quite okay with just getting whatever was around me.
Yep.
And then that's another sign to me when I reverse engineer this whole thing
Yeah.
that maybe it was never really about images for
No.
me. Because, like, if it was this good, that was fine. But for you, you want it to be this good.
Yeah, no, I want like a collection of amazing
Like,
works of art.
as long as it was technically in there and saturated well, I was always
It
okay
wasn't
with.
always about that either. You had a couple pieces
Yeah, I know.
that you knew you were going to maybe like a less experienced artist, but you kind of, I don't know if you just really wanted the tattoo or you wanted to give them a chance, or you were on your quest where you were getting like 3 tattoos a week.
I think it was a bit of like, these guys have time for me,
Yeah,
and some of the better artists didn't have as much time as I wanted.
yeah,
And so it was just like, let's just get a whole bunch of stuff done here.
great.
And then it ended up being worse in the end because all that stuff has had to be worked. Oh, and before I covered it up even, it was like touch up, touch up, touch up, touch up. My wrist was done like 3 times before it was blacked out.
Right.
It's been blacked out like 2 or 3 times. So when you look at this arm and it looks pretty smooth, where we started to where we are now, it's like, it used to look like you said, you joked at me one time, you were like, it looks like you have a skin disease.
Right, yeah,
Right.
like Freddy Krueger, which really
Freddy
sucks 'cause
Krueger skin.
the individual who did that arm,
Yeah.
I think he has like a really nice art style.
Yes, really cool art
But
style.
he has trouble translating it into tattoo all the time.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some tattoos that he's done that I'm like, that's like really cool, right? It seems to have worked, but I think that his vision, you know, is bigger than his ability to tattoo it right now.
Right. Like
Hopefully,
maybe
eventually he'll get there.
I think because you refuse to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
Because there were times when it would be like blaming me, like how
Right.
did you heal this thing?
You healed
and
it
then giving
poorly.
me different aftercare, like I don't know what I'm doing or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not how we fix this.
It's a bad sign when a tattoo falls out completely.
Yeah, like and especially when you have another artist working on you that same week and their work isn't falling out.
Right.
How do you then turn around and blame the canvas in that case?
I mean, sometimes, in some cases, it might be the canvas's fault, but in your case, like, you, without a doubt, know how to heal a tattoo. The way you've healed tattoos has definitely changed since we met. But
well, yeah, I've tried all kinds of things.
yeah.
Really.
Well, and like the way I heal tattoos and the way you heal tattoos is different.
Yes, when we first met and we were comparing how we heal tattoos, I was like,
You thought I was nuts.
not just nuts. I was a little disgusted and put off by how you do.
my dry heal.
I was like, dry healing. Excuse me.
But I've never had to have a tattoo touched up.
I was like, dry healing. That sounds horrible.
It's a thing.
'Cause
People dry heal.
I used to be where it wasn't enough unless I was like sopping
Oh
wet
yeah,
almost.
he was like shiny.
But that's a lot of it was like going to work for 10 hours and wanting my skin to stay hydrated the whole
Right.
time. So
Definitely.
like the idea of going to work with a dry tattoo for me was like scary.
Yeah.
It was like, ugh. But
But
I
now-
wasn't really thinking it through because like when a tattoo's too moist, it's more open and things can get in there,
Yeah.
and possibly get infections more.
Or like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on the science behind, dry healing.
Well, everything seals up
Right.
because that's what I've figured out with
Your black tattoos.
blackout tattooing has taken my healing from here to here
Yeah.
because so much could go wrong. Like, there's so much skin devastated by the process that if you're not healing well, you're probably going to have something go wrong.
Right.
Like, all these terrible blackout tattoos I get sent to me daily on Instagram.
Oh, there's some.
Like the one I showed you this morning of the guy and his whole arm is, like, see-through.
Right? That
Like-
one was really bad. I felt really bad for that guy.
Yeah, and it's really funny because for the longest time, this guy was darkening all of his images. Like,
Right.
there was no light source. It was like he was like in a shadow all the time. And I'm like, he's hiding something. And then once you see him in the light, you're like, oh, okay, he was embarrassed that his arm is falling apart.
Yeah, and like, I mean, there's a difference. I mean, black tattooed skin, when you photograph it, it does tend to overexpose because the light is, on that spot, right? And it's like being absorbed, and that spot is like, it does tend to overexpose. But that picture, that guy, it's not overexposure in the camera. Like, you could see everything underneath it.
See, and
It's
this
like
is
crazy.
where sometimes I don't know exactly what's happening, but that's where you, who has a BFA in art,
Yeah.
can step in and kind of instruct me. Because,
Right.
like, we'll take a picture or something, and I'm like, why is the light terrible?
You're
And I'm
like,
like
"Why
a
isn't that
caveman, like,
working?"
this didn't work. Why? Like, banging my head, and you're like, it's because of this thing,
Yeah.
right? And you have that background of knowledge, and I'm like, I'm savvy, but I'm not really well educated about
Right.
that kind of stuff. So,
I try my best.
well, I never used to understand photos as an art form. Like, it was like, what do you mean it's art? You're taking a picture of something. The thing that you're taking the picture of is generally the art.
Right.
But then what I realized in doing Instagram now for years is like, I could take a picture of that pumpkin, right? And I can make that pumpkin look big, or I can make that pumpkin look small. I
Right.
can make that pumpkin look handsome, or I can make it look terrible.
Yeah.
Right?
There's
And
a technique.
and sometimes it's not just the technique, it's also the eye too, right?
Yeah.
Like seeing the beauty in it and replicating it.
Right.
Because like I would joke that because you take all of my pictures.
I take all of yeah.
Yeah. and like now I've started taking your pictures, right?
Yeah.
And at first I was terrible at taking your pictures, but I
Right.
feel like I'm getting better.
You are getting better.
But like I would always joke that, boy, Sarah could make me look halfway human, right? Like if I were to take a picture of myself, who knows? I might look like a bear or something, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I mean, like, I am not the best photographer. I took like 3 years of photography classes, and I was never the best. I'm more of like, I like experimentation and process, which is like completely different from what we do with your photos. Your photos end up being good because of like, you also have direction.
Oh yeah, I always have a vision.
Right? And like, you have a really good eye for design. I also have a really good eye for design, but you know what you want, which makes it easier for me to try and get what you want in a photo.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think like a photo that I take of you is perfectly awesome, and you're like, it's shit,
It's,
right?
it's
Which is
not.
fine.
It's not
It's
even
fine.
always that it's shit. It's that it works in such a way that if it's not like Remy is an image,
Yeah.
and then you have to like keep that image, and
You
it's
know
like
what you want.
and
It's
there's
okay.
things that I want to do though that I
Yeah.
can't even do. Like I talk to a lot of other guys that do the same thing, and it's always like, this is an idea that would work for you, but it wouldn't work for me.
Right. I mean, like when we tried doing a little bit more like experimental, really like posed and picturesque
model-y.
images. Yeah, with your page, which I think are really fun, but they didn't work for your aesthetic.
No
right?
one wants to see me looking like that
Yeah.
young bad boy edgelord guy.
Right.
that-
Yeah. Like we
that
did
moody.
in the graveyard with the leather coat.
Yeah, no one wants to see it.
Right.
Like, and I'll go back to try that every now and then, where I'm like, I'm gonna be edgy and moody and dark, and then people are like, "What is this?
Yeah.
like,
What's he
this
doing?
Isn't you."
This isn't Remy.
Well, and I don't think you can be the guy with a carrot in his nose and the smoldering model at the same time. I don't think it works
I
that
do,
way.
but I think that's your personality, though. I
It-
think you are the dude with the carrot in your nose and
Well,
the smoldering guy. At the
I
same
always
time.
find it funny because like it'll be where I'll run one of those wacky videos and I'm making crazy faces and stuff, like with the spike where I made like the crazed face when I got it all the way through.
It
And,
was so fun.
but then the next day I've got like this really well written caption, and
Yeah.
it's like this kind of moody image, and I'm like, how is this the same human being? And I think it really throws some
Wonder.
people. It's like, okay, you're crossing wires, and it bothers
Right.
me.
Yeah, no. Which brings me back to the story of our meeting. You're like so intelligent and well versed, and the first time I met you, you called me the Supreme Overlord to my face.
Overlord, yeah. Well,
the first, I walked up, you walked up to me at Starbucks, and you're like, what did you say? You're like, "Good afternoon, Supreme Overlord." I was like, whoa.
I've always been one to find little nicknames for people.
Oh yeah, I have a million from you.
I had millions of little nicknames. There's one year, because I'm a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
There's one year where I had 30-something presents under the tree for you, and they all had a different nickname on them.
30 different nicknames.
They were all different nicknames that I'd actually said.
Yeah,
they weren't made up for that.
Every single name.
Yeah. I mean, now I don't do it as much.
No.
But you're still in that lusty phase, right? Like I said, everybody goes through that phase where all you think about all day long is your partner. Oh my God, I can't wait to see so-and-so.
Right.
That. And I mean, I still feel that way.
Oh yeah.
But it's it's more of you live in that feeling, right? You don't have to go out of your way continually,
Oh, and we live together now. It's a little different.
But I still have that feeling sometimes where you'll lay down next to your partner, I'll lay down next to you.
Yeah.
And it's like you have that kiddie feeling of every night's a sleepover.
Yeah.
I still get that sometimes. I don't know if that's wacky or what, but
when you bust out the popcorn and we're like, we're gonna watch this movie.
Yeah, every now and then you get to be a bit of a kid again, even when you're very scarred and you feel like you're 60 in ways. I when I tell stories sometimes, I feel like this is not normal that this much life has happened to this point. But maybe it is normal, and maybe people just don't talk about their life that much. But then my younger brother Tristan always says that he's envied my life because he's done a lot of just existing.
Yeah.
He's only a year younger than me, but it feels like he's 10 or 20 years younger than me.
Yeah, you feel more like a...
I've been like a father
figure for him, right?
Right. He lived in my house for about a decade on and off. And since we didn't have a father figure ourselves, I ended up filling in that role, right? And we still relate that way, but also like brothers. Mm-hmm. It's weird where in the moments when he needs guidance or someone to talk to, he approaches me as a father figure, but when we're just chatting, it's like we're brothers.
Right.
It's this weird thing that happens there. I don't know.
Definitely weird. You've definitely lived a lot of life.
But at the same time, I always wonder if that's ego, where it's just everyone assumes that of themselves, where it's not actually that incredible.
I don't know.
But humans have to feel self-important or the main character of their own story. And
well, you are the main character of your own story.
You are, but I find it's weird in contrast with my narrative is none of this really matters that much.
Yeah,
so why should you feel that important? But for you, you're not quite that way.
No.
You feel differently about that subject.
Yeah.
Right. You're more Satanist and I'm more nihilist, right? And so we have this...
We lean different ways.
There's a funny interplay there that will be lost on a lot of people because nihilist thinks none of this matters. Why build anything?
Yeah.
Where Satanist is not everything matters, but what I do matters.
Yeah,
right?
I'm building myself constantly to be the best version of me ever.
I
the gist of it, I guess.
I find it all too none of this is really gonna matter in the end. Why care? And that's kind of my approach.
You gotta live your best life, Jeremy.
Sure. I'm not saying I want to suffer forever because that's where I can't fully commit to being nihilist. I guess more absurdist now, where I find it all very silly.
Yeah.
And everything we do is kind of we get wrapped up in stupid little moments. I was telling Kevin one day about my coworker who he an egg broke on him in the middle of lunch, and he stopped everything and berated the egg about how it was a failure and
that's so good.
How this is why your mother never loved you and all these different things. And he was serious in the moment, but you laugh afterwards.
Wow.
But even in that moment, all I could think was just how wacky this situation was.
He needed it.
Well, he needed that egg to work because we're in the middle of a busy lunch and any one thing going wrong is screwing you up, right? And you're losing time. But like,
He maybe needed to give the egg the lecture too.
I can't
You
stop
don't
thinking
know.
about these kinds of moments where people get so angry at stupid things. And I'm just like giggling in the corner.
Giggling in the
Like,
yeah, that
I am
sounds
always
right.
giggling at people being upset. Like, because it's laughable to me.
Yeah,
Like, it's really like even when we're arguing
I
sometimes,
know.
you'll
It's
get
so
really
horrible.
upset and I'm
You
just
make me
like
madder.
I'm just like I can't because we're not going to care about this in
No,
10 minutes.
we forget about it in like a
Yeah.
week.
Most of life you're happy and you're or not happy, but you're just kind of level. So when people get really really down, it feels in that moment like that's life, like life sucks, right? And
Yeah.
I just
And you
can't
forget what it's like to be happy.
yeah.
You're like, I've never been, or like, not you, but like, it's like the feeling, I've never been happy, even though, there's been happiness. It's
There's
just,
been
it's
lots.
easy to forget
It's just
about it.
when you're in that down, it's so easy to get wrapped up in it, and then
Mm-hmm.
everything else kind of goes by the wayside,
Yeah.
right? And so there's lots of moments when I'm at work and people are flipping out where I'm like, this is going to be over in 10 minutes, and you've made a colossal ass of yourself, and like people will remember that you made an ass of yourself. They won't remember that moment was hard.
Right.
Right. So that's where, with the experience of doing that myself in the past, I've learned like, okay, maybe just don't say the thing and just
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, don't say the thing.
Um,
Might
I-
feel good in the moment, but you don't have to like, I gotta get better at that.
well, I think I don't think I'm perfect at it yet. I don't know if I ever will be, but like I'm always getting better at that because I've witnessed myself do stupid things when I'm angry
Yeah.
too much, to where I'm like, maybe I just don't do that, right? Maybe I just don't, like, maybe I just leave,
Right.
right? Like, go
Oh
sit
yeah,
on the
that's
couch.
always like an easier way to
And
deal
then-
with a situation. Is
Yeah.
just remove yourself from the situation, right? I think that's like a good lesson for a lot of people is like instead of just like, making an ass of yourself, just like get up and walk out.
Or sometimes once you've made an ass of yourself, you need to go too.
Yeah, that too.
Like when I first got laid off for COVID, I haven't been that low in 10 years probably.
Yeah, you were a little cranky.
I hit the door, and then I scared the hell out of one of our dogs.
Oh,
She's
poor
barking at
Salem.
me, and then I swore like a madman a few times, and then
Yeah.
I went to the car, and I drove around the block for an hour.
Yeah,
And I had no destination. I
No.
didn't care.
you just needed to cool off.
And I don't even know if I would have come back as soon as I did.
You didn't bring your phone.
I didn't bring my phone or my
That was
wallet.
the worst part.
So I didn't have
you
my
didn't have your license.
I didn't have my license, and I realized I'm like,
guy.
what am I doing? I need to go home. This isn't gonna end well.
Yeah.
But it was just like I don't want to be without work.
Or you didn't know, and then it wasn't only like that. You were without work. I think you could have done just without work,
Yeah,
but you were also without getting tattooed,
yeah,
which I think.
and everything with Ivan got more complicated
Well,
too.
like our whole, your whole routine
Oh yeah,
was just like done for, right?
it got completely railroaded.
Yeah, and like that was like, I mean, we didn't need a treadmill, but we needed a treadmill,
I needed the treadmill.
right?
I needed it.
Like.
I don't care what anyone says. Like
No,
in
but
that moment,
That's
you needed
how
it.
that's how I figured it too. Is like I wasn't gonna argue with you over the treadmill that
No.
I didn't really think we needed. You needed it.
I needed
you
it.
needed it. You needed a new routine. You needed
Yeah.
something to do with yourself during COVID, and that was that. We were getting the treadmill.
Well, and so I really believe in not leaning into mental illness and stuff.
Yeah.
But when I was young, I was on antidepressants
Yeah.
for years. My father was bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
He took his own life. Got mental illness all through my family, right? And when I was 18, I was told I had bipolar
Bipolar.
too. So I was on different medications for that, and I quit all of them cold
Yep.
turkey. And I've been handling my own. And I don't know if I actually am or not. I believe that that's a thing. I would never say it's not a thing, but I give it no weight in my life where
Yeah.
I don't ever even entertain it anymore. because for the first few years, it was like, okay, I am this, but I'm combating it.
You're so level. The only time that I've seen you like go to a real extreme is at the beginning of COVID. And I told your mom that once, and she's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." Not that you were at an extreme during the beginning of COVID, but that I always find you to be like really level because, you know, obviously you've been tagged with that bipolar you know, title. But
Right.
to me, you don't, I mean, I haven't seen massive swings. I'm sure that you maybe would feel them if they exist, but I think you do really well to combat them. I mean, like, you exercise.
I
and,
do a
like,
lot of telling myself this isn't real.
You work on your mental health all the time.
Yeah, like I do a lot of like when I get into a weird mood, I'm like, wow. Like if someone asks me how you feel, I'm feeling weird today. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
everybody has moods,
like
though.
and Lee, like I love my friendship with Lee here,
Yeah.
even just tattooing, because I would come in some mornings and he would be in like a weird headspace, and I could
Yeah.
totally vibe with it. Like, or I was like, I know what's going on
You
with you.
guys are
You're in a
like-
weird funk right now.
You guys are like brothers, though.
And I would be like, yeah, I totally.
Samesies.
I was there the other day, like where your whole mindset is just meh.
Yeah.
Like you can't be happy or sad. You're just like, I'm existing.
Yeah, I'm here.
And then some people who haven't been through that over and over again, I think, probably take that more seriously.
Right.
Or like they're like, what's wrong? Am I okay? But for me, because I exist in and out of that state, it's kind of like, yeah, this is normal. I'll pull out of this, and in
Yeah.
a week I'll be back to normal.
Right.
So I've lived in like this weird,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I always feel like I don't get to just like exist super often because of my line of work. I work with like individuals with special needs. So I basically always have to be really on, and like I have like, I guess, a work personality in a way where I'm like really
Yeah, you have a great fake face.
yeah, well, I'm
Yeah.
generally like fairly bubbly and like excitable.
Yeah.
But like at work, I'm like extra bubbly and excitable, and I'm always like an ear for people to talk to, because I think a lot of people at my work in general don't have a good ear, or like that's kind of what we're there for, right? So I'm at work, I'm always like 100% on, right?
Mhm.
And like really like empathetic.
See, that's
So,
part of my
I don't
job
get
is incredibly that, and then the part that I enjoy most is not at all that.
right?
Like I would rather take the whole restaurant and do it myself than the days when I have to manage other
When
people.
you have to people.
When I have to, well, and that's most of my week these days is managing other people,
Yeah.
and that drains me really quick.
Yeah.
And I get, like, you're always dealing, like I said, with people that are freaking out all around you. And
Yeah.
like, I think part of why you say I'm really level is because I've been navigating
People.
like people who are angry
oh yeah.
all the
All the
time.
time.
Like it's just anything could go wrong,
Your
and then
pirate
everyone
ship.
is angry, and it
Yeah.
happens quick. Like it's like a switch is flipped, and it's like, okay, and you got to feel that out and go, don't say this now because that person's freaking out right now,
Right.
and you'll tell them later. Like, and you have to be able to sense that around
oh yeah,
you.
definitely. I have that too. I mean, before this stage in my job, because my job is many things, as you know really well.
Yeah.
I'm like, I work
You
with
become a Jill of all
oh,
trades.
it's so crazy.
Yeah.
I work with individuals with special needs, but I also bail clothing for a thrift shop, basically. Like, I go through and sort it. I also sell it. I do their social media. It's like I do a ton of different stuff. It's pretty crazy. But before that, I managed 2 different thrift stores under the company, and like being the manager of a store, and not only a thrift store where you're dealing with, you know, all kinds of people from different walks of life, you always have to be like on top of, like, I mean, someone would come in and they would be angry, or they would maybe be drunk or whatever,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, you have to navigate that situation
Yeah, they're
you
not
know,
always.
properly
Yeah.
and as nice as you can, because I mean, you don't know what that person's life experience has been to bring them to that point where they're in your store. Like I had a lady crying in my store about her sister had gotten into really bad drugs. I mean, Lethbridge has, some problems, and she was crying about her sister getting into really bad drugs, and she's like, oh, I don't do this, I don't do any of that, and she's like, I just drink, and she's just crying, and I just like listened to her for an hour.
Now you're the counselor.
Yeah, and my coworker was like, I would have told her to get out, and I was like, she just really needed
it's always
someone
easy.
to talk to.
It's like would she though? Like it's easy one thing to say like referentially, like I would have told her to get out. It's like it's not always that easy.
Well, I mean, that's like a human being that's hurting, and I really don't care too much about other human beings most of the time, but in like that moment, I was like, man, like.
It's a poor reflection of your store, though, too.
How is it going to hurt me to listen to this, like, lady who obviously really needs someone to listen to right now, right? Like, so, Yeah,
just give her that minute of your time.
Well, that half an hour.
So, quick topic change.
Yeah,
what was your first tattoo?
My first tattoo, I got a unicorn.
Yeah, because I honestly don't remember which one was first.
Yeah, I have a unicorn on my left ankle.
And that was done by a guy here in town, right?
Yeah.
He's in Calgary now, right?
Yeah, I got it by a guy in town, Nathan, I think was his name.
Yeah, and Rick and him opened
they had a
shop together.
Yeah, and I think it was at that shop.
Yeah.
Too.
It's just funny because that's the first place I got tattooed at too.
Yeah, I think that was like a lot of our age group's first tattoo shop in Lethbridge, in our city. But yeah, that was my first tattoo. I really like unicorns.
And you still have them?
Yeah, I still have it.
Yeah, you haven't covered anything up though.
No, I mean, that's what I haven't covered anything up yet. Maybe eventually. I don't know. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in the future.
Cover-ups aren't typical for everyone.
Right.
Anywhere.
Well, I don't hate any of my tattoos. I have some really special tattoos.
Yeah, but you don't have to hate them.
No.
Like here's another one.
People hate tattoos though. I don't hate them. We just make jokes out of them, like Frank.
I love Frank. And I love Frank tattoos.
Yeah.
So Frank is this.
I have a skull gramophone.
Yeah, a skull gramophone. But that's not
and it's not
the word.
finished.
It's a weird idea, but it was even weirder executed.
No, like okay, so it's the artist that did it is someone that I was really good friends with. I still think that we're friends. Well, I'll go with that. And he was like young into his career at the time, and I was like, he wanted to do this tattoo, and I was like, I'll get this tattoo. The line work is beautiful. The coloring is a bit strange, but to be fair to him, he didn't finish it.
A bit strange?
A bit strange. To be fair to him, young into his career, didn't finish it. And, he could blow it out of the park now, but the line work is, like, gorgeous. And it's just, like, mostly, I don't really care about the coloring or anything like that. It is what it is. It's just, like, the concept now that I'm an adult, I'm like, why was I, like, skull with a gramophone head thing?
I
like,
think
why
that
was that
it
such
should
a good
be
idea
said
at the time?
that anytime you have a skull with a name, there's probably something funny going on, right? Like, Frank.
Yeah.
His name is Frank. It's
I
a
called him
skull.
Frank.
His name is Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wouldn't be Frank if he was
Amazing.
properly done. I don't think you would give him that name. So I think sometimes we attach more love to things that didn't go that well.
I could go and get them finished, like, easily.
Well, why
I
would
could
you?
be like, and I could have. There's been like many times over the years. It had been brought up, and I just, I'm like,
no, he's perfect.
We're just gonna leave him just like he is,
He's
as
perfect.
as a nice indicator of the time.
Anything you add to that tattoo takes away, in
It's
my
so good.
opinion.
I love it so much.
Because I don't want to see Frank look good. Like I want Frank to be kind of ugly and weird, right? Like,
he's just weird colors. He's green. He's a green skull.
But if you take that away from him, he's not Frank anymore.
Yeah.
So then it's just, look at that cool skull.
Right.
Like now he's got a story.
He does.
He's got personality.
I'm like the weird person that ends up naming some of their tattoos too, which is awful. I'm such a child at heart.
So is there any tattoo that you wish I had kept?
Oh, that's so tricky because I mean, like, you've had, like, a few things that I've been really fond of stylistically. Like, I really loved your rose mantle. I would never personally get that much red.
Yeah, I had a lot of red.
I really, but I
think-
loved, like, the rose mantle was really nice. I think the one that I really made a fuss over you are keeping, so
yeah, the
that's
Witch King.
good. It is, like, such a beautiful tattoo.
Well,
it
and
would be
it's-
such a shame if you covered it. It's so nice. It's, like, so well done.
Well, it's like 16 hours
It's
of
so nice.
or-
I
of-
wish I had that tattoo on my body.
well, and then like the better story about that was I had another Witch King
Yeah.
and it wasn't very good.
But he wasn't horrible.
He
But
wasn't-
he wasn't anywhere
wasn't
near
the
as
worst,
good
but-
as this Witch King. Like, he is a beautiful Witch King.
I had him like Witch King like right here.
Yeah.
And he had like the sword. I wanted the flail, like I wanted the two-handed flail
Right.
that he had with the ball and
Yeah.
chain. And the artist who did it was like he couldn't find a reference and whatever didn't work.
Yeah.
And so even when Rick did the new Witch King,
That's so good.
we had to create that image.
Yeah.
So it was like one of the last times I would ever have like a consult,
Yeah.
right? Like, because I don't consult, I'm blanking
you just-
things out,
yeah.
right? You just go in and you just start. You shave the area and away you go.
It doesn't work that way with every artist, though. I mean, you gotta know that art, like, you know the artist you're getting blacked out
Oh,
by,
God,
and you
yeah.
know that they can saturate color well.
Yeah, I
But, like,
wasn't
to
even.
the people who are listening to us right now, you definitely, if you're getting something blacked out, you really want to pay attention to that person's ability
Yeah.
to saturate color.
Yeah,
'Cause
the
if
guy-
they can't, you're screwed.
I had a guy tell me the other day, he's like, I got a guy who's going to black out my arm. He's giving me a deal. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh
no.
boy, I can't wait to see this. He's giving me a deal. Those words are never words you want to say. Like,
No.
hey, my guy's going to give me a deal. He said $500 for my arm. It's like,
Yeah.
$500 for your arm? Is that the cost it's going to take to amputate it? Or like what?
It's tricky, right? Because, like, I'm all for helping, like, I mean, there's apprentices, and they definitely need practice.
Apprentices shouldn't be doing blackout arm.
No, definitely
Oh.
not. Definitely not. It is a good lesson in saturation, I think, though, but
Start in a little small portion of black. Get that saturated.
Right.
Show that you can heal that.
And
then
then-
do a little more.
and then move on. Yeah, I don't. But yeah, no. Back to the subject of the tattoos that you may have gotten rid of that I was sad about. Happy that you kept the Witch King for sure. I was also bummed when you got rid of the moon in your armpit.
Oh yeah.
I really liked that.
Still on the fence about whether that had to happen or not.
I really liked that because I think I navigated you into the direction of that moon because I remember showing you pictures of people
Well,
who had negative space.
partially.
Yeah.
Because I had another moon.
Yeah.
I had a moon on this
I
arm.
really like moons,
I had a
as
moon
we can see.
in my inner bicep area on this arm, and it was
Yeah.
surrounded by like this weird fiery
Yeah,
thing,
the
and
fire.
like there was like this weird tower jammed in here that had like a million little windows, and it was like
Yeah.
black
It was a
and
nice
yellow
moon,
and crazy colors in there, and it was like, what in the hell is going? That was where the blackout all started, was that upper sleeve,
Yeah.
because it was just like, I don't know what any of that is. I really don't know what it is.
Yeah, that one ended up being mush. And that kind of influenced that whole arm, though.
Yeah, because then later, the next artist that worked on that sleeve was trying to match that style up.
Right?
And so it was just like, I want to blend these colors with this crap. And it
You
just,
wanted it to be cohesive, and there was, like, almost no way that it was gonna,
yeah.
you know, two different artists at varying skill levels who, you know, it's just, I think you have to be a really good artist to match another really good artist's skill level, and to have two, you know, whatever artists trying to match each other's skill level is kind of scary.
Oh, yeah. And there was so many weird choices that were hard to even black out.
Oh,
Like,
there's like, and the way those yellows were
Oh,
actually
those-
staying in your skin in the top. but they
yellows
wouldn't
and greens and whites.
Yeah,
you
and they
would
wouldn't
think.
stay in your skin in the bottom though. It was like weird.
Up here was solid. It was scarred.
Yeah.
It's like a minefield of scar, but down here was like that was barely in.
Yeah, it fell out.
It was
which
like,
is so crazy.
well, we did it 3 times and it covered like, I think Lee's words were, it took that black ink like a $5 whore.
So funny.
It's the funniest way of putting
Yeah,
it.
it's a good way to put it.
Especially when it was tattooed
Uh.
so many times before too. You'd think that it would have been resistant.
Yeah,
But he
no.
said it covered with no effort.
Yeah.
Up here, he was like beating it back and forth forever. Like it was like,
Well,
I can't get
yeah.
in it. But that was done by an artist.
At the
who-
bottom, it was almost like fresh skin again.
Yeah,
though,
it was
right?
almost
like barely
like
scarred.
because it was so the top layer of the skin
so
was worked.
surface.
But yeah, he said it was like cruise control through that whole area. Like it was just like, and it's in
Right.
there. And then like this arm, he did himself, and it was solid. And
Yeah, and
so-
he had to go over his own work.
and it's still got a red glow. Like in certain light, you can still see the
Yeah.
shine of the old red ink.
Well, it's because he put it in really well.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's not something you can see in a photo, but like you catch the light in the right way, and it's like there's this weird red glow to the skin where it
Right.
was so red.
Well, because that red ink's still in there.
Yeah, it's
You
all
know?
still in
It's
there.
still in there.
And, like,
it hasn't gone away.
When was it? When we went camping last month, and I put the suntan lotion on,
Oh,
and
everything raised.
all the scars were
Oh,
raising, and
You
I
were
had.
like, what is happening?
I was like, "What is happening?" I had like it looked like cartilage lines in my arm.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then you've been complaining about Spawn.
Yeah, well, this whole arm is due to get touched up
Yeah.
because Spawn he's showing up a bit more than
some fresh scars to cover the scars.
yeah.
Basically, at this point.
That's where I said like I don't know that it's ever gonna really end for me because it's always once you get something touched up, then you're gonna be touching something else up and
Yeah.
But I think just a reduced like workload, right? Like
Hopefully.
like skimming.
I'm skeptical.
I know you are.
It's
you're
been,
like-
this has been our whole relationship together. You've been getting tattooed near constantly. Like and we've been together like what, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like I've been like super supportive of everything that you've been doing because it doesn't really affect like I mean you still pay the bills.
I still pay the bills. People always think like if you look like this, like, oh, the only way that you got her was you must have got her before you did, which is only partially true. But if you were to meet me today, would you have had a different opinion of me than what I looked like when we met?
No.
Would it
so.
have influenced your thinking on me?
I maybe would have thought you were more out of my league.
Oh, really?
But like I don't really think
See, that's reverse what people would think. People would see my old images and go, "Oh, he was pretty attractive before, but then he went too far."
Right.
Right.
I think that like a lot of people end up with like a rock star ego after a while, right? So I maybe would have met you and been afraid to approach you at this point, right? Seeing like your presence and stuff like that. But I'm also fairly egotistical myself, so I may have been like, I can get the guy because that's
See,
just...
my way of thinking about you was when you messaged me, I thought, what is this girl doing messaging me? She could go for someone better than me.
You had such a well-written,
Well, yeah, well, I mean, sure, I'm sure
clearly
there's-
intelligent.
But at the same time, like, I think that was probably good that we were both thinking that person's out of my reach.
Yeah,
Because then you're both working for each other more.
right.
But
Yeah.
that was the basis for something that would be better than rather than going, oh, that person's pretty low. I can probably pick them off, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's like when you're like, well, I just kind of want someone. I'm just going to grab them.
yeah, they
It's
seem
bound to
attainable.
be- It's bound to be a bad
That person's life is a train wreck. I could probably get
right,
that.
Right? I deserve that. That's
Yeah.
kind of... But I think we both went into our relationship thinking I deserve better.
Yeah. And looking for someone that could enhance your life rather than just exist in it.
Right? Yeah, no, exactly. And it's really nice because, like, we both pay our bills and neither of us really has to, like, you know, bail the other one out or, like, struggle.
Yeah.
Right? And like it's cool cuz like you can go and get tattooed to your heart's content basically, which you'd never been able to do before.
No.
Really, and then like I can buy all of the Halloween shit.
Yeah, all the Halloween shit. Yeah.
And not worry about,
Yeah.
the money to buy the Halloween shit.
It's the funniest thing. My house was so empty before,
was
and now
naked.
it's literally overflowing.
Like, I've never met anybody who had less furniture and less objects in their house.
Yeah.
That really liked, like, stuff a lot. Like, you don't like stuff, I mean, but you have, like, really specific interests, and most people that you know have, like, that have specific interests have, like, a collection of those things.
Yeah.
You did not.
No.
I
No.
came with the collection.
Very utilitarian.
Yeah.
Almost nothing that wasn't needed.
Yeah, and our house is so full now. And partially why we need a bigger house, because Sarah has all the things. I'm not a hoarder.
I have a feeling we'll need to build a new room soon, and that'll be full before long.
Oh yeah, I love like blow molds.
Yeah, well, yeah, clearly.
Clearly.
Yeah.
But I like stuff.
Yeah, you like stuff and I don't, and that's
Stuff is good.
where, again, where I had the other suit, it was so full of random images, and it
Yeah.
was like,
That was your stuff collection, though.
that was my stuff collection, but I didn't really care that much about any of it,
No,
and
it's just
so
like your stuff, though.
For me, it makes sense to just paint it black.
Right.
It was that guy that was saying the other day, it was hilarious. He was saying, a black wall isn't art, or a black.
That was on the.
Yeah,
was it
and
the
then it
Unilad
was-
comments, or was it on your?
He
comments?
had come
But
to
he
my
come from
photo
that.
from Unilad, but you came back at him with a painting. What was it? The black. What was the?
I'm on the spot. I can't remember the artist at this exact moment, even though I knew it at the time. But
Through your extensive art history.
yeah, my knowledge. I saw the comment. He was like, "Oh, paint it black and call it art," and I was like, "Well, actually, there is," and then insert the name of the artist.
Yeah.
That did do a pure black canvas, and it sold for $65,000.
Yeah.
And it is an important piece and stage in art history that occurred. Like, that's a thing. It's important. You may not agree with it, may not like it.
Well,
I don't know if I agree with it or if I like it, but it's a thing and it happened. And I think that black tattoos are probably comparable.
Well, that's the whole
That was the
art
argument.
in general. Good luck defining it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good luck.
People have tried.
Good luck saying what is and what isn't.
No, it's tricky. There's classes
Mm-hmm.
that if you go to art school, you just sit and like philosophize, what is art?
Yeah.
And there's been tons of artists who have, poked at, what is art? What does
like,
art mean?
If I set that coffee cup upside down on that skull, I've just made a metaphor for life.
You
And
made
I
a-
can find a way on the spot to tell you that's art. And then
you made a Duchamp.
yeah, good luck telling me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You think I'm wrong. He thinks I'm right. Somewhere in the middle is where we are, right?
Yeah.
That's art for you.
Yeah, it's tricky. And like some people would argue that tattoos aren't art, and I think that there's no basis for that.
Some people
at
think
this
it's
point.
like desecration,
Oh,
right?
it's crazy.
In which case, I would be the ultimate fiend.
Yeah.
Because I've desecrated everything.
Right.
Not once, but twice, right? and who knows how many more times.
Yeah. I mean, like even being
God made you perfect,
yeah,
and you ruined
right,
it.
and you ruined your body. Oh,
Yeah.
I hate those. I hate those people. Just the God thing. It's like, I don't know. I mean, the Bible is so screwed up anyways. Like, where is the translation? Like, where is it? Like, we don't speak that original language, so how are we taking in proper context to begin with? And then you're sitting there saying that God wouldn't like someone like Remy because he has black skin. No.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
it
he
was-
painted himself black with tattoo machines. Like, no, thank you. That doesn't work.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing. Just looking different is enough to, if hell exists, you're there now.
I know, you're going there.
You're going to hell because you look different.
But, I mean, and
Okay,
they're-
well, God sounds like a dick then. I don't want to hang out with him
but
anyway.
they're forgetting their own teachings, too, because in the Bible, I was raised religiously, so I know these things kind of. But in the Bible, Jesus hung out with prostitutes and like lowlifes, right?
I'd be one of his boys.
Yeah, you'd be one of his bros, right? Like, come on. And it's so sad that people are so quick to forget that. You know, it's definitely weird. I hate it when people comment with that. It's like, you've desecrated your body, blah, blah, blah. It's like, maybe, you know, just leave the guy alone. Let him have his cake.
Let him have his carrot in his nose.
Yeah.
Let him eat his fries through his lip.
You don't have to look at it if you don't want to, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's hard not to look at, I would think.
Oh, those people are I always think that the people that make negative comments they're just there for the attention. Because a lot of times people will attack them, not you. You always have like the nicest things to say to people, like you're having a bad day, whatever. But like your followers will jump on them and be like, bah, 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 which is really like, it's awesome of them to be defensive of you, but like.
It's awesome, but sometimes it gets to the point where I start feeling bad. Like, oh God, this guy didn't know it was going to happen.
Well, those people are there for the argument, right? Internet trolls love the attention. They can't get the fame themselves because they don't know how, so they go to people's pages like yours.
It's like a 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, to obtain it.
Which is funny. A guy, one time, I mean, this has happened more than once, but the one time that I responded to a comment of, "You're just doing this for your 5 minutes of fame," and I'm like, hey, it's been more than 5 minutes. Let's be real.
Right.
It's been a while now.
It's been a while, for sure.
I've been keeping this going for a while now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely you have been.
Yeah.